Hi, loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of April 28th to May the 4th. Now, before we do any type of breakdown or recap, I got a couple of quick little announcements. One, starting this month in the month of May, because this week actually starts the month of May, every Thursday, I will be doing in person readings at a local institution known as Energestic. I sent this out in an e blast last week. We nailed down some dates. That's why I didn't put dates in that particular e blast, but I did put the information out there already. I will be there on Thursdays from 1 to 5 every Thursday this month, just to be clear. And all of the bookings on the website have been adjusted to where you can't actually book on Thursday afternoons because I will be doing a physical in-person like location, just so everybody's aware. Two, this coming weekend is the Beltane event, again here locally. This is going to be happening at the Strawberry Apothecary, and it is going to be on Saturday, May the 3rd. So I will be doing in-person readings for Beltane. For those that want to come out and again meet with me, if you can't go to Energestic because you work during the week, I will be at a local event this coming weekend. Still going on events. Number 3, I have had a standing request from my Dallas Fort Worth people to make my way back to Northern Texas. Please note how I said that. I have not found like a real good DFW event for me to get into. However, what I have found recently is going to be a event that's going to be in Denton, Texas, and this is going to be an oddities market event that's going to be on June 28th. So for those of you that have been waiting for me to come back, I have not been there for a while. I know I have a large following there because of whenever I was in real estate. Like when I moved into doing this full time, my realtors like followed me. My realtor contacts followed me and became my clients. So I will be at the Oddities event June 28th. It's a 1-day event in Denton, Texas. For those of you that are in that northern Texas area, DFW, Sherman, even if you're in the lower parts of Oklahoma, like I'm going to be closer whenever it comes to like coming to meet me in person in June. I got other events that are coming through. We got OKC in June. We've got Sand Springs in July, and then another big weekend event here in Tulsa in August that's coming up. So a lot of events are coming through. So I'm letting everybody know, like, as I'm getting new ones booked, that there are events coming and I'm getting closer to being able to see more people in person. So there's that. All right. Now, it's funny that I think about the events because over the weekend we had the Mars-Pluto opposition. And the last November, whenever we had our first Mars-Pluto, that is actually whenever I started inquiring about doing these events in 2025. And now I'm at the third and final one. And it's like, oh, look, event, 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 event. And they actually started happening after the second Mars Pluto opposition. Now I'm a Scorpio rising. So Mars is in my 10th house of career. So a lot of the energy is speaking to a whole different path, different arrangement, new routines, and building up things in regards to the channel, in regards to the business, and in regards to how I meet and connect with all of you. So there's a completion energy in a lot of ways, but a launching energy in a lot of ways. I'm using myself as an example as one way to look at the energy that we're going into. Now, we had some completions last week. We had the third and final Venus-Saturn conjunction. We had the third and final Mars-Pluto opposition. We had Mercury leave shadow. And as we go into this week, we're going to have a few more completions that start to come through that's going to finally allow for some new things to unfold little by little. And this week is going to be kind of exactly that, the mix of moving into something new, focusing on some new things, while also finally rounding out on some things that have made us feel very, very stagnant for a very, very long time. Since last summer. Let's be clear. It's been specific to last summer. Now, as we go through this week, let's talk about some of the completion. Some of the things are going to finally come to a bit of a close and allow us to move into picking back up on things that we were wanting to do before, that we were trying to do before, but something got delayed, something had to change, something had to like put some things on the back burner. We could only go so far because the energy would only allow us to go so far. And then when all the planets went retrograde and did everything that they've done, going into shadow, retrogrades, blah, 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 all that stuff from last year, I'm not going to recap all of it all over again. It created delays. And for a lot of people, it created very stagnant vibration. So let's talk about what's going to kind of free up this week. 1, Venus is going to go back into Aries and make her third and final conjunction to Neptune. Now, she's not going to leave shadow yet, but she's going to do a final marker on one other transit that's going to allow for certain things to feel more empowered to push forward. And I'm going to go with empowered for now. There's a lot more words that I can use with Venus going into Aries, but we're going to just lightly put it to empowered. There can be some fighting, there could be some tension, there could be some discoveries that go with that too, but I'll cover that more whenever we get into the weekly transit. Jupiter is going to leave shadow this week. Now, Jupiter turned retrograde back in October. And for a lot of people, there was a certain amount of support, there was a certain amount of income, there was a certain amount of service, there was a certain amount of care that seemed to dissipate in some way. And that had to do with Jupiter no longer being in a place of being able to serve, support. When Jupiter turned retrograde, certain support shifted. The other thing that's going to happen this week is Mars. Now, Mars turned retrograde on December 6th. And that happened roughly about 6 degrees of Leo. By the end of the week, Mars too will be leaving shadow. What this means is that we're getting into planets, finally getting into new areas of the sky, allowing for things to move forward, allowing for things to progress, allowing for something new to come through. Because again, we're not going backwards. We can't get back into the old energy. Too much has happened. And now we're trying to get more accustomed to a new normal. Now, the first few steps into that new normal, they were a little wonky. A lot of us did feel like we were coming up and gasping for air after being submerged into water, being pulled by currents for a very long time. Now we're getting into a better place where we can feel like we can take action. And as we go through the month of May, there will be some action involved, actions and reactions, but this reaction doesn't feel nearly as detrimental or as negative as what we were talking about before. This is more progressive. This has more insight to it. We know more now. We understand more now. And for us to get things corrected in whatever form of correction can be placed, because again, it's an altered correction, not returning it to the old. We'll start to be able to do that moving forward. See, many of us wanted to do certain things last year, last fall, that in one way, shape, or form, there was a roadblock, there was a hiccup. For some people, it was a business partner not wanting to do business anymore, doing shady shit, having to take care of that, having to streamline certain things. Some of us are having to put new things together in regards to the business because certain things have adjusted. Some people have had to take a step back because of something in their health or in the health of another person. And the shift in regards to what's going on next has now rounded us into either what their new long-term care is going to be, what our new long-term path is going to be, or how we're supporting others in their new long-term path. But there is very few people that is sitting in one spot right now that has not had upheaval and rampant amount of change since last summer. If you are one of those people that have had zero change, you are a unicorn. You are an anomaly. Congratulations. Let us know in the comments. Aside from that, because I got questions. That's why I'm saying that. Aside from that, we're all in something new. We're focused on something new. Now, this week we have completions, but the completions also speak to forward progression. So it's like also feeling certain blocks, roadblocks, fall away, the energetic tethers that have kept us stagnant and frozen in place, moving away, falling away, and an action being able to finally progress from here. Now, some of those actions have anger to them. Let's be clear. Mercury is in Aries. Neptune is now in Aries. Venus is about to go back into Aries, and Mars is in Leo. We have some fire. And as much as that can be about ambition and drive and desires of how we're going to progress and how we're going to rise to the occasion, some people are going to also run into new challenges. Some people are going to run into fury. Some people are being fed by fury. Others are being very motivated by a new set of beliefs that have deeply set in. And that really goes back to what we're dealing with whenever it comes to Neptune and Aries. We're still at the beginning stages of that fueling vibration. But as you go through this week, I want you to pay attention to the patterns of release, one or two last things wrapping up, putting a tiny little bow on here, but how much we focus on, all right, once this is done, once this is settled, once this is regulated, more consistent, then I can also do this. Then I can also do this. Then I can take care of this. Then I can pay off this. Then I can work through this. Then I can build this. Then I can continue. And our minds will be thinking of all of the actions that we need to put forward, that we need to invest in, that we need to plan out. We are in a forward momentum while also still finalizing one or two things from back then, especially last summer to fall. Okay, let's get into the transits. Let's get into the week. Let's get into Monday. Now, Monday is going to be really interesting because we're still in a new moon vibration whenever it comes to Monday. The new moon was on Sunday. Let's just be clear about that. It was midday on Sunday, the new moon in Taurus. But while the moon is still in Taurus, we are still in a new moon vibration going through Monday. We are still feeling the effects of the Mars-Pluto opposition as we go through Monday. We're still in this, again, stabilizing, yet dealing with the new power dynamic. And I want to say with power dynamic, I don't want to say power struggle. I feel like we're not going to recognize whether our new power dynamic is going to be a struggle or not until later on. Right now, I'm focused on a new power dynamic whenever it comes to the vibration that we're going into. Now, as we go through the day, the moon's going to be in Taurus all day. The first exact transit doesn't actually happen until the evening time. So I got this at 8:30 because this kind of encapsulates both of the first two transits simultaneously. So between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m., I got it at 8:30. The moon is going to make a conjunction to Uranus. Now, some of us are going to be doing things throughout the day, but I don't expect big events unless they're a lingering situation from what happened over the weekend, what happened over the course of those other transits that we've dealt with. What I want to pay attention to really is the fact that we're just going to be in a forward vibration that speaks to tidying some things up, wrapping some things up, while also being concerned and considerate. I'll say considerate also about how something appears, what's going to be fair, what's going to be balanced, and again, some level of stabilizing. Now, when the moon hits the conjunction to Uranus, this can be an unexpected phone call whenever you get home in the evening time, an unexpected email, unexpected communication, something exciting going on. But considering when the moon goes through its conjunction to Uranus, it's also starting a sextile to Saturn. You can get an unexpected email or an unexpected phone call that immediately requires some kind of judgment, reaction, information from an authority figure. Because it's like you get that email, just going to go with an email. It's super simple for all of us. And you have to immediately forward it to your bosses. Hey, this customer is upset. Hey, this person is upset. Hey, I got this complaint. Hey, I saw this posted on social media. Hey, what do you think about this? And you're sending it to someone else for their judgment, for their input, for them to just be aware that, there's somebody bashing us on social media again, because I'm sure all of us have dealt with this at least once in some way. In other ways, we can be doing something exciting, having a little too much fun with the kids, and then, somebody's coming outside going, hey, you're making too much racket. Some of us have to sleep around here. This is happening later in the evening time. The Saturn sextile to the moon is going to be most exact between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. So it's like we're having a little too much fun outside. We're making a little too much noise, and somebody has to come outside and like kind of rein us in a little bit with the Saturn vibration. So be prepared for that kind of stuff whenever it comes to the evening time. These are the first two. The next thing that's going to happen is going to have to do with Venus. So between 11:30 p.m., so I'm going to put this at 11:30, and 1:30 a.m. on the 29th, so on Tuesday, Venus is going to sextile the moon. So what's happening at the same time as this Venus moon sextile, what's interesting to me is that Pluto is also going through its exact contra-ANTISCIA to Uranus. A contra-ANTISCIA is a secret alliance. It's an acceptance. Now, I'm really clued into this because the next things that are going to also start to happen as we go through this year is that Uranus and Pluto are going to start doing trines in the air signs. Like whenever Uranus goes into Gemini, it's going to start going through trines with Pluto. So I feel like there's something about an acceptance, an overcoming, a releasing of certain fears, a releasing of certain vibration, a releasing of certain frustration to do things more independently. And that's an internalized vibration more so than anything. But I also am looking at some of the human events of what's going on, the other direct solar events of what's going on that can finally give us some grace as to what's starting to come through and what's starting to get wrapped up. So there can be some completion energy as we go through Monday, especially in the evening time, even so much as going into Tuesday, because again, Venus is sextile to the moon. It's happening at this 29-degree mark. It starts on Monday. Like I said before, I'm going to bump this down. It continues into Tuesday. And the thing about Tuesday, whenever Venus goes through this sextile with the moon, is this is Venus's last full day in Pisces. So again, we speak to something that means completion. All right, we've got to work on this final little space. We got to clean up these final little things. We got to work through these final little things, because somebody's about to come in. Somebody's about to show up. They're coming over this weekend. We've got people going to arrive. I'm thinking of the arrival aspect. We have to get these final little things prepared so something else can begin, something else can start. Venus is in a mutable sign. It is in a changeable sign. The moon is, again, in that fixed sign where we just had a new moon. So we're still in that transition period of like wrapping a few things up while the stability of something is able to shift in and begin. How that stability looks in the human effect is going to be different for everybody, but I still feel like there's a little bit of like stability going on. All right, moving along. The Venus moon sextile again, 11:30 on Monday to 1:30 a.m. on Tuesday. We're going to keep this going. Between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, Neptune is going to sextile the moon now that the moon is in Gemini. Now, at 1:35 a.m., that is whenever the moon is going to go into Gemini. And what's going to be interesting is with the moon in Gemini, the moon is being hosted by Mercury. Mercury, now newly out of shadow, in the sign of Aries, right after the Mars-Pluto opposition. So right after Mars, the host for Mercury, has started to either focus on a new dynamic, a new power struggle, has told someone off and let them know that you're not going to be a part of something anymore because it was that final opposition. But now there's information and communication in regards to what that looked like over the weekend that needs to be started to go through. It needs to be expressed. It needs to be worked through. It needs to be announced. It needs to be communicated. It needs to be planned. There's logistics involved. Once the moon goes into Gemini, the mind is going to be busy, and it is going to be very, very focused on certain actions that it needs to take. And there's going to be a lot of busy work involved when it comes to the actions that are very, very necessary. Because again, Mercury is newly out of shadow, going into new areas of the sky in a fire sign, in the sign of Aries. Now, I want to be real clear. When the moon is going through Gemini this time, given how Mercury is doing, some of us are not going to like the tone of which things get said. People are going to have their feelings hurt a couple of times. And I need a lot of people to be mentally prepared for that. They're not going to like how the conversation goes because emotion is going to get removed, and it's going to be very curt, frank, and to the point. Facts are facts. This is real. We got stuff to do. I am not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to baby you right now, given the condition of Mercury while hosting the moon in Gemini. So be prepared for that. It's going to be interesting. And again, everybody's going to be very mentally busy in a lot of ways. Now, when Neptune hits the sextile to the moon, you can see that right here. We're still at that beginning vibration. Mercury has just left shadow over the weekend. So there can be a bit of confusion that can still kind of come through. Now, this is happening in the overnight hours, again, between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. But that doesn't mean that we can't have the lingering effect in the morning time of like, I don't know what to do. I just know that we're doing something new. I'm not entirely sure how I'm about to get some things started. And that can be a kind of a continuous like theme that happens throughout the week. I know I've got to do something, but at the same time, I'm still kind of like iffy on what first steps to take, and be prepared for that. It's going to be okay, but there can be some iffiness here. Neptune sextile to the moon can actually have a little bit of that iffy, like, I know I have to be in this new place, but I don't know where the new offices are. I don't know where I'm going. I'm starting a new job. Think of it this way. When you go into the new job the first time, you know one person. It's usually the person that interviewed you, maybe two or three if you had multiple interviews, but really, you don't know anybody. You don't know what you're doing. You just know you're starting something. Think of that type of thing. Okay. Between 6:30 and 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, some of this is 7:30, Pluto is going to go through a trine with the moon. Now, I didn't really cover this. I'm going to cover this more in the closing, but these are the final days of Pluto being direct. I've hinted about this a couple of times. I'm going to put more focus on this in the closing because it literally is how we end the week. But Pluto is stationing. And with Pluto being in the spinning, not wanting to move, not really progressing, we have certain things that it's just like we can have I'm going to say a trigger in some people when Pluto hits the trine to the moon, but it's also kind of the recognition of something not triggering us the same way. Somebody says something because they're trying to get your goat, they're trying to get a reaction out of you, but you're so numb to their bullshit, just what they do. You're like, no, we're not playing this game. I'm not doing this with you. I'm not playing. I don't want to play. I don't want to try. Don't even start with me. And again, we're very curt in some of the things that we can be saying. So some of that vibration can also speak to like, if you do this one more time, you're going to hate my guts. Trust and believe you're going to hate my guts. So be prepared for little things like that. Now, a more positive way that Pluto can come through can have to do with like, we've reached a completion in something that needed to be transformed. We've reached a completion in a power struggle. And in a lot of ways, that can be voicing that too. Yeah, I'm not in charge of this anymore. I'm not worried about this anymore. I'm not taking care of it anymore. I have delegated it to someone else. It has been given to another person. I'm not in charge. I'm not as frustrated. I'm not as upset because I have said my piece. And that Pluto vibration can speak to that. Now, considering right after Pluto goes through its trine with the moon is going to sextile Mars. I got this now at 9:30 a.m. This is going to go the most exact between 8:30 and 10:30. So here's the moon, 4 degrees, 58 minutes. Here is Mars, 4 degrees, 57. We're right on top of it. This can be giving direction, some additional direction of like, okay, so-and-so said they're not in charge anymore. They're not taking care of this anymore. Just this one continuous example here. So I hear you're now in charge of this department. You're now in charge of something. You are now taking care of something. And this kind of feels like guidance. It feels like giving information. It feels like giving some direction of what continued new actions are going to start to take place. If you think of it back to the new job sense, you get into the new place, you do your paperwork in the morning, you wrap up a few training videos, and then you get to go walk into your office space or your cubicle space. You start to meet the people that you're going to be doing work with. You might not be doing immediate work with them, but it's like, okay, now that this is done, now that this is over, here's going to be your space. Here's going to be your team. This is what you'll be doing moving forward. This is where you can put your things, blah, 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 blah. Super mundane, super simple. Does not have to be tense. Some people might be a little bit tense, given that we are still in that Mars-Pluto opposition, but it doesn't have to be tense for everybody. Okay. Again, this entire day is the last full day of Venus in Pisces. So in a lot of ways, there is still that lingering effect of energy of like, this is how we're doing something now. This is what we're wrapping up over here. And even some of the guidance and the direction can have to do with like, this is what we used to do. This is how it's been done in the past. But now moving forward, we're going to go in this way. And that can just be a part of the vibration. There's a transition in the vibration. Some of you might be getting trained by the people that used to be in this position. They gave their notice. You're the replacement. You're just getting a little bit of training from that person before they leave. Think of that kind of transition. Okay. Now, whenever it comes to the rest of the day on the 29th, there are no more direct transits. So let's be clear about that. We still are going to have lingering effects. There's still going to be things going on. There can still be very busy minds and, overthinking or rapid thinking or planning some things out. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. When we get into the 30th, right after midnight, from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Central Standard Time, so right here, Mercury is in a sextile to the moon. The moon is in Mercury's sign. Again, as we go through the later parts of Tuesday and into Wednesday night, the human effect here is that our minds can be busy. We can have a lot of things that we're trying to put into plan, a lot of logistics that we're trying to work out, a lot of things that need to be dealt with in certain ways, putting together a plan of action of how something is going to move forward. And as we get into this overnight hours, the human effect is some of us late on Tuesday sent an email out of like, this is like the plan moving forward. Some of us are going to go into Wednesday voicing, if it's not an email, think of voicing, this is how it's going to be moving forward. You're picking the kids up on Tuesday. My new schedule has me working late on these days. They're going to go to aftercare. We're going to get a babysitter. We're going to do this because we are in a new dynamic. Now, the human effect of what that looks like for you guys is going to be very different for everybody. But again, we're in this transitional period of wrapping some things up because we're in a new dynamic, new focus, new periods. Okay. All right. Now, keeping this going. After Mercury sextile to the moon, we're not doing anything until the actual daytime on the 30th. And that is whenever the moon is going to make a conjunction to Jupiter. Now, I think this is great. So right now I'm showing this at 11:30 a.m. and the moon's just starting its conjunction to Jupiter. But at this moment, look at Venus, 29 degrees, 58 minutes. If I bump this 1 hour in the timeline of the moon Jupiter conjunction, Venus is going to move into Aries. So you can see this right here, Venus 0 degrees, 0 minutes. Now this is actually exact at 12:16 p.m. But there is a benefit here. When the moon hits a conjunction to Jupiter, it can have luck. It can have benefits. It can have something helpful coming around. Something with the doctor, the guru, the teacher, something with the nurse, something in regards to people that support you, people that help restore your faith. And they give you some idea of something that you can start doing now. They give you the green light. They give permission of something you can start doing now. Some of you are going to be out with somebody, even in the doctor's office. If you're not out with a person like in a store or something like that, going to the bank or something like that, you go to the doctor's office and they either tell you something about some potential new treatment that we can be looking at. There's one way, or it's like running into someone, meeting with somebody, and there's a benefit that we don't even realize is starting to set in It gives an empowerment. It gives a hope. It gives a blessing. Now, I wouldn't normally say that with Venus going into her detriment, but she's going to be highly empowered this time. A little confused at first, a little wonky at first. We're still in a transitional energy, but there's a benefit here. And the moon's conjunction to Jupiter is going to be beneficial for how we're in this new beginning, this transitioned to new beginning going through the week. Okay. Now, after this, Jupiter actually leaves shadow. This is when Jupiter is going to start to leave shadow over the course of this afternoon. Venus going into Aries, and it actually goes exact during the Chiron moon sextile. So here's Chiron, 24 degrees, 3 minutes. Here's the moon, 24 degrees, 3 minutes. Jupiter now, 21 degrees, 20 minutes. This is the exact degree and minute he went retrograde in back in October. So this transitional energy of the new, the benefit, the hope, the help, the aid, the finances, the doctor, the guru, the teacher, the treatment, there is benefit to it. And it again takes us into new horizons and new territory where we had less support before, a removal of support before, a removal of faith, a removal of belief. Now we have something extra that's going to come through that's going to take us into new territory. Be aware of that. Okay. Now, the next thing that's going to happen in the evening time. And this one can be tense. This is going to be where we have some potentials of arguments and frustration. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Between 10 p.m. and midnight Central Standard Time. So again, this is my time zone. Saturn is going to square the moon. Now, Saturn is in the higher authority. And this square with Saturn is going to be different than anything else that we've dealt with, because for the first time, it's just Saturn in Pisces. It's just Saturn. We have been dealing with Neptune in Pisces since like 2013, 2014. Well, he finally moved. Over the course of the last few months, we've also dealt with Mercury going in and out of Pisces and Venus going in and out of Pisces. But Mercury left a couple weeks ago. Venus just left earlier in the day. So there's something here about like doing something different, doing something alone, giving a new type of judgment, a new type of push, a shift in information. Saturn is in the higher authority. And sometimes we're the Saturnian ones. We're the authority figure. And because we've seen so much change, we felt so much change. And considering Saturn is hosting a very stationing Pluto, there can be a little bits of like fear coming through in that Saturnian person that so much has changed that it's like saying something judgmental to someone that just creates an argument. It just creates tension. You know, sometimes you see someone that's doing so much, it's almost like they're doing quote, quote, too much. Doesn't always have to be that, but hear me out. Sometimes when you are doing a lot of really good new things, you can instigate insecurity in someone else. That insecurity leads to them casting judgment. And that's what a lot of this feels like. Some kind of judgment, direction for some, sure, but more likely to be judgment, a lack of care, a lack of empathy, a shortness in their temperament because so much has changed. And I feel like there's going to be a heightened sense of like frustration as we go into the evening time. For other people, it might not be that at all. It might be permission, a permission to go into something new, to try something new, to do something different. It could be direction. It can be guidance. It can be advice. But there can be a heightened sense of tension and frustration. And I'm just not going to sugarcoat that. And the moon, again, being in Mercury's sign, I always say Mercury in Aries is pop-off season. You let one person give judgment and say something the wrong way, we're going to have something to say. Oh, all right. Now, the square between Saturn and the moon goes the most exact between 10 p.m. and midnight. This is how we're closing out the month. We're now going into May. The moon is going to be in Gemini until 2:23 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then the moon is going to go into Cancer. As soon as the moon goes into Cancer, it starts a square from Venus. So again, we've been in a transitional energy. Once the moon goes into Cancer, Venus just changed signs and we just hit this first square. This is a 0-degree Venus squaring a 0-degree moon. There's the start of something. This is happening in instigative cardinal signs. There's the start of something. There can be something emotional coming through with the moon being in Cancer. There can be something very empowered that is happening here, that it's giving some level of nurturing. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take this action. I'm going to make sure everything looks well. I'm going to take the action to make it look right, look good, look the way that it should. I'm going with looks and appearance just because it's talking about Venus, but it might not have to do with looks at all. Just humor me. It's the Venusian stuff. Venus in the higher authority, newly going back into Aries. There's something we were trying to do back in February, something that we thought we could take action in, something that we reacted to in some kind of way back whenever Venus first went into Aries, that then things went crazy. Of course they did. The Venus retrograde made a lot of things go crazy. Now that Venus is back and hitting that very first square to the moon, this is the start, an instigative, pushing, starting, directional vibration. Now, for some people, once the moon goes into Cancer, it's going to be new emotions that come to the surface. And if we had tension the night before, the reactions might come through differently the next morning that we weren't anticipating. But other people can have a new kind of support that floods a different kind of reaction that comes through. It's like, I'm so glad you're here. I've needed you. I've needed somebody here. I've needed somebody in this position. I've needed to feel supported. I've needed to feel care. I've needed to feel something for so long. And I'm so grateful that you're in this position now. There is something starting. This is a transitional week. There is something starting. And it's not just the fact that it's a new month. There is a transitional new beginning coming through once the moon goes into Cancer. And that's going to be, again, May 1st to May the 3rd. So we're going to keep this going. Now, again, Venus is in the higher authority. Venus is going to square the moon. Venus is also starting her conjunction to Neptune. It's not exact yet. It will go exact on Friday, and it's going to happen later in Friday. Like it's going to be happening in the daytime. But some of us, as we start some new things, we're going to be a little bit wonky. We're going to have a little bit of confusion. And that even kind of comes through as the moon continues to progress, because it will square Neptune as soon as it finishes its square with Venus. So we have new things that are coming through. There can be inspirational stuff, but there can also be the effects. There can also be the treatment. There can also be the care. There can also be the beliefs, the fueling of certain beliefs. There can be the discovery of certain things that starts to come through. Now, this is not just specific to the first. This is kind of specific to like the first and the second. There can be the discovery of some things that instigate some new emotional reactions. And that can be a big thing too. Remember, whenever it comes to Neptune, a lot of times Neptune can come through as the lies, the fraud, and the deception. Now, Neptune's been here for a couple of weeks now. We can have some new things that are going to come through that we were not anticipating that will leave us kind of feeling a little confused. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Okay. Now, these two squares between Venus and Neptune, of course, they're happening consecutively in the overnight hours. Some of us are going to be kind of cloudy and hazy going into the day on Thursday. This sets the mood. It sets the energy for how we're going to be on Thursday. And many of us are going to be kind of in like a weird headspace because, again, something feels surreal. Something is not the same. Something has started. Something is different. We've been in a transitional energy. And this is how we're going to be all day until we get to the evening time. Now, the next transit that's going to happen is how we're going to close out the first. And that is whenever the sun, 11 degrees, 59 minutes, goes through a sextile to the moon, 11 degrees, 51 minutes. This actually goes exactly right around 11 p.m. I've got it at 10:30 right now. We feel it between 10 p.m. and midnight. This is kind of how we're closing the day. Now, some people are going to be feeling the weird, hazy, surreal type of vibration. And with the sun hitting that sextile to the moon, It's like giving some insight, giving some guidance, giving permission, giving something new to come through. Now, why am I saying that? Because as the sun is going through the sextile with the moon, Mars is about to leave shadow. In fact, it's going to leave shadow just after midnight. So, just after the moon sun sextile is completed, it's how we start Friday. So, some of us might be, again, getting some type of guidance, permission, understanding, support to go into something new, to do something new, to take something new on as we progress. And that is a very big vibration of the later part of the first going into the second. So now I got this on the second, 12:30. Here is Mars, 6 degrees, 9 minutes. Mars is leaving shadow. This is how we start the day on Friday. Mars leaving shadow, going into new areas of the sky, going into new territory. We're transitioning out of the things that used to hold us back while also moving into new things, progressing through the week. It's such a transitional energy. Now, our next transit that's going to happens between 7:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Now, I want to be clear, we're going to still be in some surreal energy. And there can be some things in regards to the direction, in regards to the guidance, in regards to the things that are getting said that can hurt people's feelings. And that can come through in this morning time. Mercury, 17 degrees, 40 minutes, is going to be the one squaring the moon. The Mercury is in the higher authority of the square. When this vibration is going on, there can be a push, there can be direction, there can be news or information. Now, this can also be for the collective. It might not just be for you as an individual. Some of us might be seeing some things on the news, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Coming to light, getting revealed, bringing out an emotional reaction. Why am I saying that? Because as the Mercury moon square is going on, Venus and Neptune are going into their exact conjunction. I do anticipate for the collective some things to get revealed, some news to come out, some things that have been a long time coming to the surface. And I'm not sugarcoating that in any type of way. The exact conjunction between Venus and Neptune is going to happen between 11:31 and 12:12 in the afternoon. But now that Venus is here, she's in a much more empowered energy. Mars hosting that Venus is in a much more empowered energy. And again, we have just started to step into new areas of the sky when it comes to Mars. There's something new that's going to be coming to the surface, going to be coming out. Now, if you do not have some big thing in your personal life, that doesn't mean it's not going to be on the news, that it's not going to hit the collective. And I am being as clear about that as I possibly can be. I very much feel like on Friday, we're going to have some things to get revealed. And they're going to be dealt with. They're going to be based off of like some of the things that Venus and Pisces was focused on correcting. Now, when it comes to Neptune, I'm going to move this to where we're getting more into that exact phase. Got at 11:30 now. When it comes to Neptune, sometimes Neptune can be about the medicine. It can have to do with the treatment. It can have to do with vices. It can have to do with addictions. It can have to do with lies, fraud, deception. It can have to do with beliefs. It can have to do with the fueling in the beliefs. And some of us might even hear certain lies that fuel a certain belief. And whatever we hear on the news, whatever you're hearing from certain people, you should take some of it with a grain of salt, just to be clear. Because what can happen later on over the course of the next few months is that some of the fueling might come out with a different story once Saturn gets into this area of the sky. So take anything that you hear with a grain of salt. Okay. A lot of that was intuitive. Okay. Now, as we go throughout the day, we're in this lingering energy. We're in this foggy, surreal energy. Anytime Neptune's really highly activated, it can be very surreal, very confusing, very odd in how it impacts us. Between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, Chiron is going to square the moon. Now, for some people, we're still in this Venus Neptune energy. It has not gone away. It's not as exact anymore, but we're still in it all day long. We were in it on Monday also. When Chiron hits that square to the moon, there's something about this that feels like a solution, but it's like asking how the fix works, giving guidance about how something, a new idea of how to fix something, thinking, in theory, it might work. We have a belief that something might work, Venus's conjunction to Neptune, but we have to see the effects. The moon is in Cancer. It's in a nurturing sign. Chiron wants to take certain actions to fix something, to overcome something. Some of us might be dealing with here's an idea that I have on how to fix something and giving that guidance. Some people are in an area of the only way I know to fix something is to try this new thing because nothing else has worked. We have to believe something is going to work. We have to believe this thing that we just learned about has a potential. We have to believe that this new job is going to be the right fit. Remember, I said we're going into a new power dynamic. I'm not ready to say which one is going to be negative or positive. I think we need to give time for everything to plan out so that we can see if something is going to be negative or positive. Chiron square to the moon can be about the fix, how we heal, giving guidance about how somebody has fixed something in the past, but giving inspiration to a person that's never had this kind of fix before in regards to the vibration. So there's a fixed energy whenever it comes to the evening time. Now, the next thing that's going to happen is going to be a transit that carries us from Friday night into Saturday. So I'm going to bump this to 11:30. Between 11 p.m. Central Standard Time and 1 a.m. on May the 3rd, Uranus is going to sextile the moon. Now, I'm watching Uranus now because Uranus is also getting close to leaving shadow. He's not about to leave shadow. However, Uranus is hosting Pluto, and Pluto's about to go retrograde. And as we go into Saturday, there is going to be a Moon-Pluto opposition. So some of us might have some exciting, unexpected plans. And think of it this way. It's like exciting, unexpected plans. Like, the things that you need to do, but you're not going to be doing them to the next day. You've got an idea of the things that you need to do, but you don't know exactly what you're working with. And some people might be trying to get a few things lined up on Friday night, taking care of a few things because it's going to be a part of what we do on Saturday. A few little wrap ups, a few little unanticipated things, a little agenda pieces that needs to be taken care of. Doesn't have to be heavy. Unexpected communication that leads to things happening the next day. That can be a big part of this too. Just be aware that whatever is starting to come through Friday night can have a direct impact onto Saturday. So we're going to keep this going. And now we're getting into Saturday. Again, Uranus's vibration to the moon is on both on both Friday and Saturday. So there's a lingering effect that's carrying over. Between 2 and 4 a.m. Central Standard Time, so now I got this at 2:30, Saturn is going to trine the moon. Now, trines are a much better energy whenever it comes to Saturn. There can still be something from the authority figure, something about responsibility, something about a role, something about position, something that's going on with an elder that's being expressed in some type of an emotional way. Whenever it comes to these overnight hours, we can also be time to put into perspective all the responsibility of things that need to be taken care of. I'm looking at the moon in Cancer when I'm saying the taken care of part. And we can still be in that lingering effect of some of the late night Friday things are going to be an impact for everything that needs to be seen, worked on, dealt with whenever it comes to the weekend, specifically Saturday and Sunday. Most specifically Saturday, but hear me out. Okay. After the Saturn sextile to the moon is going to go void until 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm going to bump this to 6:30. And now the moon is in Leo. The moon does very, very well in Leo. Now we have a lot of things that are going through fire signs. And again, there's something about the power dynamic, this new power dynamic that's starting to shift into place and seeing how it gets expressed. Now, again, there were some things that could have been going on Friday night that feels like lingering effects or planning or some type of communication that puts our focus in what we're doing on Saturday. And that can be a big thing. Whenever it comes to Saturday, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of things going on. But even in some of the activity that we're going to be doing, there's going to be some cloudiness, there's going to be some confusion as to how we start the moon in Leo. But once we get through Saturday morning and we get into the actual day on Saturday and we continue into the rest of the weekend, are there elements of the surreal because of the transition that we're in? Absolutely. But whenever the moon goes into Leo with all the other fire vibration going on, we feel empowered. We're going to feel righteous. We're going to feel like things are going to go well. We're going to be feeling ourselves. Like it's going to be a lot higher, heightened energy in a lot of ways. And that direction, that path of the transitional energy that we've been going through all week will start to make a lot more sense. And what we will also start to feel while the moon is going through Leo with all these other fire vibrations going on is we're going to feel certain fears falling away in a multitude of ways, especially on Sunday with the fear factor. Okay, moving along, get back in the transits. Now, moon goes into Leo, like I said before. Between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m., Neptune's going to trine the moon. Between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m., Venus is also going to trine the moon. So I'm just putting this at 8:30. We're going to encompass both of those. Here's Neptune and the moon. Here's Venus and the moon. So this is, again, kind of going into that surreal effect of what I was talking about. We know we're taking an action. We know we're doing something new. We know we're encompassing something, working on something, overcoming something, doing certain things, but some part of it is still very, very new and surreal. You know the action that you have to take, you know the stuff that you're going to sell, you know the work that you're going to be doing, but you don't know all the details about where you're doing the work, how things are going to go, what's going to be doing what, who's going to be taking care of what. Like there's still some things that are kind of in the shadow, but other ways things are going to go well. That's this kind of vibration. You know you want to build the shed, but you don't know. You don't have all the material yet. You want to go pick out a couple things because you want to make some selections. We want to take a certain kind of action, but there's still some things that are kind of up in the air. It doesn't have to be the heaviest, but there can be a lot of inspiration, hopefulness, and beliefs that start to really come through this vibration as the day continues. So I love the vibration for Saturday for a lot of people. The only thing that I'm going to say is like, let's not do any kind of day drinking because Neptune's too heavily activated for my liking on that. So, keep yourself hydrated. No wine bottles, please. That's just a thought. Okay. Now, between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit an opposition to Pluto. And this is the last transit to Pluto before Pluto turns retrograde, because that's what we're going to be dealing with on Sunday. Pluto is going to turn retrograde. We're coming to a peak in some kind of vibration, and we are either going to be seeing how much someone has changed, seeing how something has come through, or we're going to be saying something to someone for the last time, like, you're not going to trigger me anymore. Some people are going to be dealing with the power dynamic still. Other people are going to be looking at the Phoenix transformational energy of Pluto, and both are very, very valid. A lot of people are going to be like, I'm not going to deal with your bullshit anymore. You do not scare me anymore. This is not going to be negative anymore. I'm not going to put up with your bullshit anymore. You got a problem? Go deal with it elsewhere. You're not dealing with it with me. The moon will be full steam ahead after the opposition to Pluto. So if we're having some tensions, again, let's not have some day drinking going on because that's going to amplify it. But if we're just doing normal things, if we're just looking at the new dynamic, a lot of people can see how much something or someone has changed and taking it to a more positive energy of like, this renovation is complete. This one thing has finally wrapped up. This is no longer serving me, and I'm ready to let it go. There is a release in a lot of ways. There is an overcoming in a lot of ways. There's an empowerment in a lot of ways. Let that vibration kind of sink through and just be that vibration. Let's not add to it. I'm just going to keep saying that. I don't know why that feels so important, but I'm going to keep saying it. Okay. The moon's opposition to Pluto can be felt between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, of course, I got this at 1:30. As the day continues, we get into the evening time, and between 6 p.m. and 8:30, I gave this one a little bit of a larger window. The moon is going to make a conjunction to Mars. The reason I gave it a longer window is because of all the stuff going on in Aries. We just had the Venus-Neptune conjunction. Mercury is in Aries. Chiron, of course, has been in Aries for a very long time now. And we get into this disruptive meeting. For some people, it's going to be valid, pivotal disruption and not necessarily bad. It's going to have excitement. It can have some level of action in a good way, where other people are going to have a negative reaction. And this again takes me back to probably no day drinking on Saturday. Because once we get to this evening time, if we've had some things going on throughout the day that have fed into a point where we can have tension, this can be tension. Some of us are going to have something else kind of flooding the senses that is going to create disruption. And because I'm feeling the flooding of senses, again, I'm saying no day drinking. But other people are going to have some things potentially with health, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But there is this vibration of something kind of coming to a peak. Some people are going to be telling about all of the things that happened throughout the day, talking about an event, having some type of action or reaction that is more celebratory because we've had a more pivotal vibration. Other people are going to have something that gets revealed that creates chaotic vibration. And that Venus Neptune can be very revealing. Certain truths can come to light, certain information can come to light. I wouldn't normally go to that extent, but Venus spent so much time ending her retrograde in Pisces that hitting that conjunction to Neptune, I feel like her coming back in, she's going to be very fueled herself to handle some business that kind of came through during her trip in Pisces. And some people are going to be very blindsided and shocked by the situations. But again, in a lot of ways, we're getting to certain points throughout the weekend of like, you're not going to have certain control over me anymore. And a certain part of fear is meant to dissipate because, again, Pluto's stationing. So it's a very, very interesting, empowered vibration as we continue through the weekend. All right. Now, the Mars Pluto, sorry, not Mars Pluto, the moon Mars. I got used to talking about Mars and Pluto. I apologize. The moon Mars conjunction is felt again between 6 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can see this here. After that, there's no more direct transits. So now we're going to get into the fourth. And the first thing that is going to happen is the quarter moon. So I'm going to get this to the morning time between 8 and 10 a.m. So I got this now at 8:30. Here's the sun, 14 degrees, 20 minutes. Here's the moon, 14 degrees, 9 minutes. Again, this is going to go exact a little bit closer to 9 a.m. But there is a build up and uplifting in the energy. The sun is hosting this moon. The sun is in Venus's sign. So we have this whole level of like new things coming through that is a part of the stabilizing. And some of the stabilizing still means breaking away from certain situations and hitting a turning point in regards to no longer letting certain elements of fear control us. Now, why am I saying that? Because at 10:28 a.m. Central Standard Time, so right after we go through this quarter moon vibration, bump it to 10:30, Pluto goes retrograde. You will not control me. You will not have any power over me. I will no longer put up with your nonsense. I will no longer put up with the bullshit. I have a different focus in mind. I feel much more empowered, much more capable. I know the lies. I know the bullshit. I know what you've done. I'm not dealing with it anymore. And there is something about the vibration of the moon going through Leo. So that's going to be the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. So even Monday of the next week. That speaks to releasing certain fears and overcoming a lot of things. Now, as we go through the day, it feels empowered. It feels heightened, chest full, super strength coming in, get the downloads, getting the clarity. And there can even be some direction and communication as we get into the evening time, because between 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the first transit that we will have post Pluto turning retrograde is right here. Here's Mercury, 21:23. Here's the moon, 21:3. So it's almost exact. It goes exact closer to the 10 p.m. standpoint. But there's something that's being communicated, something that has just changed, an action that is taking shape that is going to have a long-term effect because the moon is in Leo, but Mercury is in that instigative sign. So we're at the start of certain changes. The Venus-Neptune conjunction in this instigative cardinal sign, the start of certain changes. But it's going to help us transition into something for the long term. The things that are starting as we go through the entire month of May have a long-term effect that are going to be coming through. I mean this in the mundane daily sense that we've already been in, as well as the collective, as well as what's going on with anybody and everybody going around that we see in the news, the collective. The more fueled, the more empowered, the more willing to take risks, the more we feel like we need to fight back, the more we feel like we can adjust our sails, the more we are no longer letting our emotions control us, the more we allow for certain things to pivot into place. Fear is meant to be released. No longer feeding into fear, no longer feeding into the same power dynamic. As Pluto ends its retrograde at the end of the week, something internally for many, many people starts to dissipate. And I'll be honest, even in the Mars-Pluto opposition over the weekend going into this week that we're going into, I could feel it. I could feel it. And I seen it in certain people whenever it came to some of the conversations that I was having. They were like, I feel more motivated. I feel more empowered. And as we transition through this week, I feel like more and more people will feel that level of empowerment. Now, in that empowerment, there's going to be some vibration that speaks to standing up to one or two people. I'm tired of you acting the way that you have. I'm tired of you trying to control me. I'm tired of this situation and that situation. I'm tired of dad. I'm tired of mom. I'm tired of my ex. Tired of my baby daddy acting like we're still in a relationship whenever it serves him. Just going off of like the most mundane examples. I'm tired of these things. And to get over, there's going to be some revealing. There's going to be some new dynamics coming through. There's going to be some inspiration for some. There's going to be some calling some people out for others. And there's a big buildup in the vibration. Now that Mars is back in Leo, his energy is very, very different. Think of how people were feeling in their emotions through January, February, and March. All of that time frame of Mars being back in Cancer. Things that I started to warn about last fall is like, if you don't get a control of your emotions now, the first time Mars was in Cancer, so back in September and October of last year, I'm like, if you don't get control of your emotions now and start putting yourself in check and start doing the things to keep yourself grounded, how the hell are you going to handle the springtime? A lot of people did not handle springtime very, very well. It didn't matter how much I said that. So many people let their emotions run over them and run free. Certain deep-seated things coming to the surface have now come into light in a way that creates actions and reactions. But I don't mean this in the reactive sense of what we were dealing with in the volatile energy during the Venus retrograde. So that was March. I mean it in the sense of like, we are ready to overcome. So many people are tired of being scared, they're tired of feeling held back, tired of feeling like everything's going to go wrong. And we're ready to start putting some things right. But again, whatever we're starting to put right is new. It's not restoring to the old. It's new vibration, new topics, new methods, new actions, new jobs, new people, new business partners, new team, new staff, new software, new ideas. new ways of caring for ourselves, ways of caring for our parents, caring for our children. There's something new because the old way fell through all the volatility. We needed the volatility to create the pathway of the new dynamic. And now we're stepping into the new dynamic. This is a very transitional week. But by the end of the week, the transition is letting go of fear, letting go of frustration, no longer allowing certain people to have control and power over us. Now, for some of you, that's going to be a very small situation. It's going to be you telling your best friend off, I'm tired of you using me. I'm tired of you not doing the things that you said you were going to do. Some of you, it's going to be your spouse, and it's going to be somebody like that. I'm tired of this going wrong. I'm tired of this being a situation all the time. There's something about telling someone we can't continue in the same way. And how big or how small that looks is going to be different for everybody. For some people, it's going to result in finally letting go of the past, moving into a new direction, moving into your own place. For some of you, we're solidifying the new power dynamic. And all of this week is because we've already done the release. But now it's sliding someone new into here. It's like, yeah, so this is the new manager. I don't have a business partner anymore, so I had to hire a manager. So I had somebody else that I can trust to help me carry the load of what the company needs. And it's like taking that business manager into meeting everybody. Here's your staff. Here's some of our business partners. Here's what's going on. And we go into the new. But as we start to step more and more into the new, fear dissipates. I can do this. This can work. It's going to be okay. This can work. And in a lot of ways, it will. Make clear decisions. Expect action this week. Expect movement this week. And as we go into these new clear decisions, also expect certain fears that have hindered us and controlled so many to start to fall away. If you're not telling someone off, we're allowing fear just to fall away, to dissipate. I hope more and more people have the dissipate. I hope it's just feeling empowered and going into the new direction and going into your new jobs and just feeling like, yeah, this is going to, I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so glad we made these decisions. I'm so glad this is working out. But for other people, you're going to do some telling off. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Some people are going to have some things come to light that are going to lead to the telling off. Not going to sugarcoat that either. But as we continue to progress forward, there is a shift externally in the world as well as internally within us. And I do truly feel like for the most of us, by the time we get to the end of this week, certain fears that have kind of latched on, anchored us down, tethered us in certain ways, will finally dissipate, fall apart, rip apart, and allow for us to really get into the progression that the rest of May and June have in store for us. Because we're in forward momentum, forward motion from here, forward motion into our new normal. And I'm excited for it. I hope you are too. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I wanted to spend some extra time on Pluto at the end because that, again, is happening at the end of the week. It's going to be kind of launching us into next week. I got a lot of events coming up. I will send out some e-blasts for everybody. Hit me up with questions, hit me up with concerns. And then, of course, if you're wanting to book sessions with me, you can do that on the website. You can do individual sessions. And now, as some of you already know, because you've already taken advantage of it, you can now do multi-booking sessions if you want to do that. And if you do those actually come at a discounted rate. So check those out. All right. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.